Welcome to PetPixworld podcast. Hello, friends. We are one of a kind virtual community and we share amazing and wonderful pet stories of pet parents from all around the world, talented pet clothing designers, pet charity organizations, and of course, pet professionals. So, just we are one. We are all of us passionate pet parents. We love our fur babies, and this is what we are going to explore. We are going to virtually stay connected with PetPix podcast. We are also the first pet virtual magazine with integrated videos and so much more. But just get ready because together, friends, we write the modern history in the pet industry, in the pet world. So let's the show begins. Hello, everyone. Hello, dear friends. I hope you are doing well. And, hi, world. I am really like one of you who is very passionate about learning new things, right? About discovering new kind of some of them very well known for us as pet parents, but topics not everyone likes to talk about. And to be honest with you, really very exciting, big time. And so we do have a special guest today, and our story, goes back when I was browsing, like in Instagram, and suddenly, and hi to everyone who is watching us live, and suddenly, I got this message, from Courtney, and he said that would you consider, Vasi doing an interview with us? And I said, of course, that I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And that's how our podcast, today was born. And you're probably going to say, Bavasi, what are we going to learn today? And here I am to tell you that Mr. Courtney, he is the owner of Palmetto Scoopers, and he is going to share with us some really very interesting, ideas on how we can kind of take care of our fur babies. And he will give you a little more details. But when you walk your fur babies, and he also his company, helps doggy parents, but also kitty cats parents. But that's how I'm going to leave it. So without further ado, I want to welcome you and say thank you so much, for being here with us today. Hi. I know you live in South Carolina, and it's a little beautiful rainy day there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'd just like to say thank you, Vasi, for having us on the show. I mean, I greatly do appreciate the opportunity just to share our story and some educational facts and information on how, your listeners can actually help keep their yard safe and cleaner for their pets as well.
Yeah, well, I think that it's important. A lot of people probably would say, but why this is important topic? I think it's beyond important. And let's face it, I mean, right now, spring is almost here on the corner. So for the states who have snow, soon snow will be gone. I mean, you and I, we are lucky enough that we don't have snow, or if we have snow, it's like once every 50 years. And we know that we have listeners and viewers from all around the world. So it's a very trendy topic to me, a little kind of a forbidden, but I think really definitely needed. But can you tell people a little more about your story and why you do what you do with your team?
Yes, so a little bit about me is my name is Courtney Ceacal, and I'm originally from Orangeburg, South Carolina, but moved to Columbia. And a few years ago, before I started Palmetto Scoopers, I was actually a dog breeder. And shortly after I started breeding dogs, we had an issue with the actual market of the breed that I was breeding, which was the pit bulls at the time. And there was a thing with the Michael Vick where he was actually caught up in like a dog fighting ring. So therefore, the dogs I was actually trying to sell to pet owners that wanted pets, the price had actually decreased from what it would be, where it would actually be, profitable, as well as, able for me to take care of the mom dog and the father, as well as I try to raise these puppies. So shortly after that, we dissolved that business and we were just regular pet owners like everybody else, taking care of our dogs. And unfortunately, one day our boy dog Tyger, who was our sire, who we used to breed with our girl dog who just recently passed away, Roxy. And we always, wonder why he had got sick. So we took him to our vet, and our vet, told us a couple different things that, may be wrong with him. But unfortunately, the vet had misdiagnosed our dog, and he had ended up passing away, unfortunately, about 7 days after we took him to see him. And it was a very traumatic experience for my family and I. I mean, at the time we had two very young kids, about 4 or 5 years old. And even to this day, my oldest daughter said, if you ask her, she can tell you that she remembered that night vividly, because it happened about 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning. We had to get his body wrapped up in a comforter, put him in the car, and took him to the emergency vet because we didn't know what to do. And after we had got an autopsy on his body, and from a local university, they actually told us it was the bacteria in his bloodstream that actually caused him to get sick and end up passing away. So me and my wife wanted to know more, so how we can, prevent this from happening with our girl dog, Roxy, who's still alive and, very healthy, because we had two dogs. How could one get sick and pass and the other one didn't? What did we do wrong? And come to find out, we weren't picking up our dog waste in the yard. We always assumed when we had the lawn guys who we paid to come out clean, that they were picking it up. Well, as I found out, as I've talked to several different landscaping companies over the 8 to 10 years, they typically don't pick it up. They prefer to just either run over with the lawnmower, cut it up, or just raise their blades where they actually don't cut up the dog waste or blow it around the edge of your property like the landscaper guy was doing in my yard. So what was happening when we were letting our pet out, Tyger, he would go outside when we weren't watching him, he was eating his dog waste. And I always tell people, your pet eating dog waste is similar to smoking cigarettes. It doesn't affect you today, but in an extended period of time, it can. Just like if you smoke a cigarette today, you won't have cancer immediately, but if you smoke cigarettes for 10, 15 years, if longer, if not shorter, you would have the possibility of getting cancer. And that's when I was compared, your dog eating dog waste to, smoking cigarettes and getting cancer.
Wow, yes. This is, first of all, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's always very devastating, and I can imagine, for your child, it's definitely really very hard. But I also am a true believer that everything what you and your family, went through, as hard as it was, nowadays, I mean, you can see there's so many years you have been on the market, you're having your business and helping so many families, because again, people don't pay attention to these things. I mean, they just say, oh, I do what I need to do, but I just feel that we know that sometimes there might be some pet parents who don't take care of it. And then suddenly we need to be a little more mindful to make sure that we do it 100%, not 98%, because we need to think about not only our fur babies, but when you go to a park, to the rest of the pet community, the rest of the, fur babies. So this is really a good way of you describing it. I never look at it on this perspective, so thank you so much. That's really very educational. And so, let's say if people would like to work and partner with you, because I also know that you're a big supporter, rescue organization. I know that, percent of your income every month go to multiple different rescue organizations, which I thank you for it. I definitely encourage more company to consider that, because it's good for business, but it's good for everything. And you are actually good for the environment as well. But, if, let's say, I have no idea anything about it, what would you tell me? Let's say, how many times a month do you come, or etc.? I'm sure people probably would ask also for some of the, maybe if you're using any chemicals. I mean, the random questions, that's kind of, again, what it comes in my head.
Yes. So what I typically say is, so we have 3 different types of service plans we offer. We have like a bi-weekly plan, a weekly, and then a twice-a-week plan. So say if you have one dog, like a Dachshund, maybe smaller, and, a relatively sized yard, like a 16th of an acre or more, we'll say, the bi-weekly plan is probably best for you, as long as you're picking up in between visits. Now, if you're not going to pick up in between visits, you're very busy, like most of us are, who have kids, that's active. or we just got a life, or like right now, we're in daylight savings time, so the sun goes down a lot earlier. So, when you get off work, last thing you want to do is try to scoop up poop in the dark. You're going to step in more than you're picking up. So I'll say, you probably want to do a once a week plan. Now, say if you got 3 or more dogs, 60 pounds or more, then you probably want a twice a week plan. That way you can make sure your yard is actually clean for your dogs and safe as well. And I would say a great way to know if you even really need a pooper scooper is if you get home from work, you're tired, burnt out, don't really have time to go out there yourself. That's when you probably can use the help. And we don't ever, try to shame anybody into doing anything. That's not my intentions. I always try to educate people. So what I always tell someone is that if you did not know, the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, actually looks at dog waste in the same category as toxic waste or toxic chemicals. So
Really?
yes.
Wow.
So you don't want to leave dog poop in your yard, not only because that on days like today when it's pouring down raining, that dog poop sitting in your yard, especially if it's been there for a long extended period of time, all that bacteria sitting in there start washing into the drainways, storm drains, into our rivers, streams, lakes, and all that water still goes back to our local water factory or, distribution center where they actually filter out this water, clean it, and then they put it back for us to use out of our sink, faucets, cook with, and all that stuff. So I always tell people, when you take the time to hire a pooper scooper or even pick it up yourself, you're actually helping out your community because you're keeping the wasteways and the waterways actually cleaner for the bacteria that's found in the dog waste. Because I looked up several years ago, and I still look it up always every year, the amount of dog waste accumulated, or the bacteria that's in the dog waste in one single pile, is more than 23 million parasites per pile of dog poop. So say if you got a whole pile of dog waste, 1 single gram of that pile of dog waste contains 23 million different parasites. And some of those parasites is like E. coli, Giardia, and Salmonella. And there's a lot of other ones as well, but those are the most common ones I've noticed that, people have found issues with in the past and in the present. So that's why when I always tell someone, you're not sure if your dog going outside eating the poop, it could be, you never know, but I always say you just definitely want to pick it up to avoid any cross-contamination from your dog to you in case they are eating their dog waste. But, I always say at least make sure you're picking it up at least once a week, at minimum every 2 weeks, But like I said, it really varies by the size of your yard, the size of your dog, what you're feeding them. Because, if your dog is on cancer medication, you definitely want to pick that up on a daily basis, just because they on different, maybe chemo or some things like that can affect your grass, your yard, and all that chemicals and stuff, and whatever medication they may be giving them may be actually affecting the waterways as well.
Wow, wow, wow. I never even thought of this. And now you are putting, thing in a very good perspective. Uh, it's pretty interesting, to be honest with you. And I do have a question for you. How about people who may have kids? Okay, and as we know, depending on the age, I mean, sometimes they don't even know what it is. I mean, if they're like between 1 and 2 years, they just see something, So
Yes.
what would you tell for people who have kids?
So if you do have young kids, I recommend, if you have 1 dog or more, definitely do have a pooper scooper come out, clean up for you on a regular basis. Because I've had clients in the past that signed up that are still with us today that actually have had their kids, luckily not eating it, but grabbed it, got it on the hands, and they're in a state of panic. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened. But I was like, great thing is you got us now, and you'll never have to worry about that again. And that's what I really try to give to parents, that peace of mind of knowing that whenever we come out on a weekly basis or twice a week or every other week, whichever one that best suits your family, that we're going to guarantee when we leave every time your yard is waste free. And you can guarantee you can send your kids out there to play and don't have to come back into your house with, dog poop over their shoes, or worse, they got it in their hands because they're a little bit younger and they're playing with it and stuff like that. Because, nobody wants their kids to get sick or have to go to the doctor and, deal with all
Yes.
that hassle or anything. And at the same time, we love our pets, they're part of our family and we'll never get rid of them. So that's not an option. So I always like to say, we're the person in between. We like to make sure you don't have to go to the vets for unwanted visits for sicknesses for your for your dogs. And you don't want to go to the doctor for any sicknesses for your pet. I mean, God, I'm mixing it up, but your kids as well, because like I said, I got 3 kids. Last thing I want my kids to do is step in dog food, get alone, pick it up, and be tossing it around or anything. So I say definitely make sure if you can't hire a poop scooper, at least try to pick it up once a week, at minimum. And, it's a lot of different solutions you can use to like clean things as well in your yard that's not chemicals. So that's something that my business what we use is all stuff that's chemical free, because personally, I don't want to put anything in your yard that can be chemicals that can affect your pet, whether we in there or not. And I just care about your dogs just like they're mine. So whenever we come out and service a yard, we actually clean the tools in between each and every visit. So we leave one house, we go to the next, we actually disinfect the tools in between and before we get there and make sure they're clean for the next house, so there's no cross-contamination or transferring bacteria from one yard to the next.
Wow, thank you. By the way, that was one of my questions about the chemicals and non-chemical things you are using. So thank you for answering it. I'm sure a lot of people ask and have this question. I do have one more. So it does happen, unfortunately, sometimes when we step on it with our shoes, because you mentioned about it. So how would you suggest for people to clean it off of the shoes? Sorry, but I know that can happen. There is discrimination, can happen to anything.
Yeah, it does happen. It does happen. So I could give you 3 different solutions. They all work differently. One would I say, take the shoe off, throw it in the trash. if it's like a raggedy shoe you don't care about and something old. Or 2, you can go the old, I call it the lawnmower method, where the lawn guys, you'll see them, they're out there taking the water hose on high pressure, blast it off. Yes, it's not going to be great because you're going to get a little bit on you. Or you can do like what I call the old fashioned method. You get like an old toothbrush and you actually get in the groove, scrub it out, and use some sanitizing solution with a little water mixture, and you'll be able to get it off of there relatively pretty good. But it definitely will still be a little messy. You probably want to leave it outside for at least 1 to 3 days to get that odor off. And then it'll be okay to use again, but you definitely want to make sure you disinfect your shoes before you wear them back inside your home.
That's definitely a good point. So friends, make sure you clean very well your shoes, your slippers, you name it, because we know sometimes you may go outside with slippers, flip-flops when you're walking your front. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And before we are done for today, is there any tips, last words also you'd like to say, and also where people can find you on social media?
Yes. So one of my tips, honestly, would be, I always say, just even if you don't hire a poop scooper, just make sure you go out there and pick up behind your pets at least once a week. I mean, unless you got a very big yard and a small dog, every other week would be okay. But that's like my biggest thing. Just make sure you're picking up behind your dog. Even if you're out on a walk, and I know how it is, sometimes you might not have a bag on you, but please come back and grab that, because most people don't know, most states actually can fine you for doing that. So when I visited Key West a few years ago, they actually have a law, and they actually will write you a ticket and fine you for that. And there actually is even companies that you can have like test the DNA of your dog's waste and tag you in it, have your phone number, email address, everything that can contact you. So say if your community did that, they'll know who dog pooped, where, what dog, and actually be able to find you for that. So that's something you want to make sure you do. But I always say, make sure you pick up your dog waste. Make sure you definitely taking the time to check your yard after your lawn guys. Because like I said, we didn't check out our lawn guys. We assumed that they were picking it up. They weren't. And especially if you have a small yard and you got like 1 or more dogs, because you never know what they're doing outside when you let them outside to go do whatever you're doing, hop on a phone call, you just let them out, because that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And, if you ain't picking it up, there's a lot more out there than you think, because the average dog poops 2 to 3 times per day.
Yeah.
So if you got one dog pooping 3 times per day, that's 21 pounds in a week with just one dog. So if you got 4, you do the math, that's a lot.
It
That's
is
a
quite
lot.
a bit.
Yes. So I always
Uh,
tell people that that's the main thing. Just make sure you definitely picking up the dog waste because it do matters, and you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping your community as
Absolutely. And in fact, one of my friends from Instagram, she's from UK, and she said, Vasi, I wish everyone was picking up, their doggies, waste. And again, it doesn't matter where we live, where we were born. We know we are a global platform, and you're located in, South Carolina. Still, this is, reality. So it's a
well. Yes.
reality, and we need to take care of it. And, yes, the kids, the pets. And I do have one last question, um, because you also help people with cats. So for the kitty cats parents, what would you say to them?
With them, I'll definitely say, which I'm pretty sure they know, make sure you keep the litter blocks clean on a regular, preferably every 2 to 3 days. Make sure you're scooping out the litter that has gotten solid already from them using it, or just, whatever they may have. And you always want to put some fresh litter in there at least every 2 days,
Oh,
especially if they're
wow.
using it a lot. Because I always say if you have 2 cats using one litter box, they'll definitely want it clean at least every 2 days and have some fresh litter in there. That way they'll use it and won't be going anywhere extra in your house, that you don't want them to. Because I've had clients where they had about 14 cats and not enough litter boxes. And just the smell from the ammonia in the house was very hazardous. I even told them, they needed to do something else because, it wasn't healthy for them as well as their pets. And that's always my goal, just to educate the pet parents on like making sure you keep the house safe for the pets. And they eventually did upgrade it and got more, litter boxes, but it was still a struggle for them at first because they had some
Yeah.
different financial issues going on. But I always tell people I try to work with everybody, no matter who you are, what your situation is. If we can help you, we'll do our best to accommodate.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing, Courtney. And I can tell you that I actually was long time ago in a person's house. They had 25 cats. They were helping a
Wow.
rescue, and inside in the house itself. And that was, I would put it, like interesting, even to photograph it. I was like, everywhere I turned, there were kitties. I'm like, okay, which ones I'm photograph? I have no idea. It was, but I do agree with you. And they also have these modern cat litter boxes which automatically clean.
Yes.
What do you think about them and
I
those
honestly,
type of?
I honestly love those for those that can afford it.
Mhm.
Those are great because you don't have to worry about your litter box ever being unclean for your pet. And what's great, it cleans it literally right after the pet uses it, get out of there. And I got a friend that actually has it, and they love it. They say I don't never worry about it. I just come pull out the little bottom and empty it once every couple of days. And they said it's really, really convenient. So they do enjoy that. And I do recommend anybody that can afford it, please do get one. It'll definitely save you some time and make sure you have your clean litter box for your cats always.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Because my sister has it, and I'm like, I was envious. I'm like, okay, good, bad. It's good. The house doesn't. My sister is very clean person anyway. But
Yes.
it's just you don't even know that there is a cat in the house and a dog. You can
And that's what you
don't
want.
2 kids. You don't know that.
Yes.
So really great. And can you please tell people where they can find you?
Yes. So you can find us at our website at palmettoscoopers.com. You can also find us on Instagram at Palmetto Scoopers, Facebook at Palmetto Scoopers 1, I believe it is. And you can find us on TikTok at Palmetto Scoopers 7. You can always follow, like us, or even reach out to us if you have any questions about your pet waste, or even if you don't stay in the area where we service and you're looking for a pooper scooper just to help you out with any solutions you may need. I'm actually part of a large network of other pooper scoopers across the
Really?
world. Yes, I got friends that scoop in the UK, Canada. I even got friends that scoop down in Florida, all the way out west to California. So if you ever need any help, just reach out, and I could definitely get in contact with someone that's actually a professional part of the organization that we're part of.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's so exciting. Well, you have to then connect me with some of them, because will be really amazing to do an interview with a person from different countries, because
Yes.
obviously with the different countries, different, landscape. And I said,
Yes.
I'm just curious. So please keep this in mind.
I definitely will. I
Put
definitely
me,
will.
in your list, and hopefully, we are looking forward, friends. Courtney said that he might write an article for our upcoming February magazine issue. So, I'm crossing my fingers you have the time, because I know that you are very busy in person with your team.
I'll make the time just for you and your readers. I don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today. It truly has been a pleasure to learn more. And friends, to be honest with you, I really think that this is something we need to be mindful, and I know that we are, but just kind of sometimes stepping away from not being the pet parent and just seeing the big picture about the environment, about the kids, about the rest of the people. And, even being mindful, okay, I have one pet, I have few pets, they go outside, and just educational. I feel that if you learn one thing, which I'm sure that at least I did learn a few things, but if you learn one thing, it's all worth it. I didn't even know that such a service exists. And now the fact that we have Courtney, from Palmetto Scoopers, who also has connection from all around the world, because I know we have friends from everywhere. That's really very beneficial. So enjoy your day. Thank you so much, Courtney. And I'm looking forward to having you again in the podcast and highlighting in our magazine and collaborating together. So friends, make sure you go below in the description of the podcast, or we are watching this as a video, definitely, the information is below, and just say hi. Courtney and his team. Thank you so much. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening this podcast episode, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. Hopefully it helped you and inspire you, and you learn some new things. So please, friends, check below in the description of the podcast all the details about our amazing guest speaker. Go and say hi. Just, follow us on social media, check out our website. Please make sure you check our magazine, PetPixworld magazine. You can find it in Amazon. You can find it also in our website, petpix.com. And just know that we are in this together. We would love to highlight you in our magazine, in our podcast. Reach out to us if you hear about any fun events around you. It doesn't matter where you live around the world. Let us know, because together we are a community. We virtually stay connected with PetPix, and the most important is that together we create the modern future of the pet industry. So let's continue enjoying life and our fur babies and make an impact in a global level.